We've almost made it through the winter's spring training. So on today's show, I'm looking at 5 different things why I'm excited for spring training this year. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I'm talking about 5 reasons why I'm excited for spring training, things that I'm looking for, things of that nature. Before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Now we are almost officially here. We are at the week of pitchers and catchers reporting. We are in the mid-February range. And my favorite tweet, most basic tweet to tweet every single year after the Super Bowl is done, like thousands upon thousands of others, just saying, hey, football's over. It's baseball season. Finally. We've almost made it. Just 2 more days until we get to see pitchers and catchers reporting. Not much longer than that. Everybody else will show up. And there's a lot of things to watch for this spring training. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new names, a lot of just change in general from a disappointing 2024. But even after that rough season, Rangers had a good offseason, and it's spring training time. It's always the time for unfettered optimism, even in the most hardened of hearts. So I'm breaking down 5 things that I'm looking for, that I'm excited for, heading into this spring training. Let's start with number 1. How does Evan Carter's back look after this past offseason? And it also, in that same vein, how does Josh Jung look after another surgery on his wrist? These 2 guys, missing them for last year was just such a huge part of why this team took that step back in 2024. I mean, they were both such integral parts of the 2023 team. Evan just in the final 3 weeks of the regular season, 3.5-ish weeks of the regular season, and in that postseason run. But Jung all season long. I mean, an all-star in his rookie year. Fantastic in the first half. Not quite as fantastic in the second half. The Rangers were struggling so badly in August of 2023 and early September. A lot of that was because Josh Jung was not in this lineup. He was such a big part of this team. He had a great spring training last year, a great first 4 games of the season, and then stupid Phil Maton and his freaking hit by pitch. I mean, if there's one moment to point to that derailed the Rangers season in 2024, that's one of them. I think the collision between Marcus Semien and Adolis Garcia is another one. But Evan Carter, dealing with these back issues for the second time, missing a majority of a season before he even turned 22 years old. I mean, that's worrisome. But he's not as worried about it as I think I am, as I think a lot of Rangers fans are. I mean, back issues are no joke, but the Rangers and Evan Carter have said all offseason, okay, we figured out why this is happening. We figured out why it couldn't heal up. We figured out what caused it. We figured out how to fix it, more importantly, so that it's not going to be an issue going forward. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. I'm hoping that it's true, because this kid has such a bright future. I mean, having Wyatt Langford there as the budding young superstar. Before Wyatt Langford, we had Evan Carter. He was the little savior. He was the next big thing. And then Wyatt Langford burst onto the scene and has a fantastic rookie year, a little bit larger of a sample size. Didn't quite get those moments in games that were mattering for playoff contention, at least down the stretch like Evan Carter did. But I have no doubt that Langford will be doing that. But Evan Carter is such an important young building block in this Rangers team, not just for this year, but moving forward in the future. Same with Josh Jung. I mean, getting less young by the day, all of us are, but Josh especially, he's missed so much time with just these random injuries, keeping Josh Jung protected and healthy through spring training. I mean, last year was the first year that we had a spring training that Josh Jung didn't have some kind of calamity in spring training. Whether it was the car accident in 2023, whether it was the broken foot earlier in his career, whether it was the shoulder injury in 2021. I mean, just keeping Josh Jung in bubble wrap in surprise is priority number one. Same with Evan Carter. These guys are such big parts of this offense. I'm really glad that the Rangers made some more moves this offseason to kind of shore up that offense to where if these guys do still struggle to stay healthy, if they do still struggle to produce, the Rangers aren't completely reliant on both of them. But again, they are such a big part. If they are healthy, if they are good, if they are about what we're expecting of them, then this offense shouldn't have much of a problem bouncing back to the 2023 version. Heck, maybe even better than the 2023 version of this offense, because you have the additions of guys like Jock Pederson, of Jake Berger, of we'll see how well Kyle Higashioka responds in his first year in Texas. I'm really excited about his contributions, giving Jonah Heim more time off his feet, so hopefully he will get better. And they also just a full season of Wyatt Langford, a whole another season under his belt, a whole offseason under his belt. I'm excited to see how Wyatt Langford, blooms and dominates in his second year. But these two guys are building blocks for this Rangers team. Their health is paramount in this season. I mean, it's not as paramount as it was last year, and I don't think the Rangers can fall as far off if Evan Carter and Josh Jung both have more injuries to deal with this year. But I really, not just for the team, but also just for these guys in general. Like these guys are beloved members of the most important Rangers team in franchise history, both of them, and I want them to have long, healthy, happy careers where they absolutely dominate. And keeping them healthy is probably the most important thing for this spring training. Well, their health and one other guy who we'll talk about later. Number two thing that I'm excited for this spring training is the new bullpen. I mean, this is a completely revamped bullpen. There are so many new faces. One of them not completely new. A couple of them actually not completely new in Jesse Chavez and Chris Martin. We'll see if Chavez ends up making the opening day roster. Chris Martin feels like the most certain thing to make this opening day roster, barring any kind of injury for hopefully anybody. But I mean, just so many new guys in Robert Garcia and Jacob Webb and Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner. I mean, all those guys, really, really interested to see what they look like. I think there's a lot of different, angles, a lot of different, styles of pitcher in this bullpen with, Milner being the lefty soft tossing side armor with some funky stuff. Sean Armstrong being a guy who relies a whole lot on a changeup. Same with Jacob Webb. Robert Garcia, I'm really interested to see what he looks like. I think he's a big part of this Rangers bullpen, not just for this year, but for many years to come. Very excited for Chris Martin to be back. He is just such a quality piece in this bullpen. And, I would have liked him to be the setup man to Kirby Yates' closer. But if he's your closer, then I think that's fine. And not just these guys, but guys at the end of the bench, end of the bullpen, competing for that final roster spot on this bullpen, whether it's Jesse Chavez, whether it's Jake Latz, whether it's, Mark Church or Emiliano Teodo, or maybe Skylar Hales breaking into the mix. I don't know if those guys will end up making that final spot out of camp, but I'm sure we'll see them at some point, and there's just going to be a lot of new faces in this bullpen after so many years of having Jose Leclerc back there, after such a great season from Kirby Yates, from David Robertson, a pretty decent season from Jacob Latz overall. We'll see if he ends up making the pen out of spring training or if he starts the season in AAA. There's just a whole lot of new faces and a whole lot of moving parts, and bullpens by their very nature are transient. That's just kind of how the game works. But to rehaul and revamp a bullpen this much, it's a lot. And I don't know if all of these moves are going to work out. Probably not. Probably one of these moves that the Rangers, made, signing a Jacob Webb or, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner, Chris Martin, I feel most confident that Martin's at least going to be pretty good. I don't think the floor for him is too low. He is heading into his age 39 season, so, the worries about him holding up for this, what is going to be his last year in the big leagues. He is retiring after this year, wanted to come home, pitch closer to home. I love that he is back here. I love that there's another very tall Chris, a right-handed pitcher in the Rangers organization that can almost stand eye to eye with Chris Jung. But I'm excited for the moves that they made in this bullpen. I would have liked to had just one or two more, but honestly, even if the Rangers brought back Kirby Yates, I think still part of me would be looking like, okay, well, what if just one more? What if just one more? One more? One more? There's always a need for just one more guy. But with the amount of moves that Chris Jung made this offseason for the bullpen, I'm really excited to just see these new guys in a Rangers uniform, see how Bruce Bochy decides to deploy these guys, what they look like, how they fit on this roster, and just seeing a bunch of new faces in Rangers uniforms has me excited. Coming up, we're going to talk about a couple of pitchers who I am fascinated with what they do this spring training, and a couple of reasons why you need to be looking very closely at what they're doing in spring training games and just heading into this week. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. When the games tip off, NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets for a same-game parlay. You've also got all kinds of different odds on Major League Baseball. Right now, the Rangers, to earn a first-round bye, they have the fourth best odds to earn a first-round bye in the American League. Yankees are the favorites at plus 125, then the Orioles plus 300, Astros plus 320, Rangers not that much farther behind at plus 350, or to just make the playoffs in general. The Rangers are favored to make the playoffs at minus 114, right there with the fourth best odds behind only the Yankees, Orioles, and Astros to make the playoffs in the American League. They got all kinds of different bets. You can go right now. FanDuel customers, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back talking about a six-man rotation, why the Rangers should do it, why they shouldn't do it, and who should be in that six-man rotation if the Rangers decide to go with that for maybe the first time ever with a six-man starting rotation. But speaking of the starting rotation, the number 3 thing that I'm looking forward to in spring training this year is watching Kumar Rocker, and specifically Kumar Rocker's pitch mix. I am fascinated to see what he goes with his pitch mix in spring training. It is a point of, I don't know, consternation, a debate, whatever it is. I think that Rocker, to make that next step, I mean, he had a great first stint in the big leagues. There were some growing pains. There were some moments of just absolute awe and brilliance. His rock ball, slider, cut, curveball, sort of whatever the heck you want to call it, was fantastic. He relied on it quite a bit. He also relied quite a bit on the four-seam fastball, which I don't know how much he should use moving forward. He's got a four-seamer and a two-seamer / sinker, whichever you want to call that. It's more of a, two-seamer, and it's the better fastball of his two. It's got more movement. The velocity is in the same kind of range. The four-seamer is fine. I mean, he throws it hard to the point where, it's an effective pitch, especially to pair with that curveball. But I think the sinker is it's a better pitch. It's got the same velocity. It's got more movement. It isn't going to miss as many bats as you'd like a four-seamer to do. He can't really use that as much up in the zone to kind of change the hitter's eye level to keep them off of that curveball. But it's an effective pitch, and he's also got one that he hasn't thrown yet in the big league level in his cutter. And I think that could be a very, very effective pitch for him. I think it could really help him against lefties. I think the changeup we also need to see more of. Last year, he threw 42.2% four-seamers, 38.5% sliders, which also should count 2 more pitches that were counted as a curveball. It's the same pitch. He just manipulates it differently. I've talked at length about it last season when he was coming up. He calls it a curveball, and then he called it a slider. It's just a rock ball. That's just what it is. And the sinker, he used just 17% of the time. The changeup, he only threw 3 changeups last year, 1.4% of the time. That needs to be more, especially if he's going to go deeper into games, if he's going to face the order, 3 times plus through. I'm not sure how deep he will be going into games, not for lack of an ability to do so, but just for his health. I mean, that's also a big question mark and concern with Rocker of how many starts is he going to get? How deep is he going to be allowed to go in games? How many pitches will he be allowed to throw? How economical can he be with that pitch count when he is in big league games? Right now, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be one of the best 5 starters in the Rangers organization in terms of starting pitchers, and he should get an opening day roster spot. It's not going to be handed to him, but he is just that talented. But he's going to have some growing pains. There's going to be some pains this year. I don't think there's any situation where he just goes out, has 30 starts, throws 180 innings. It's just not feasible. It's not reasonable to expect. Eventually, I think he's going to be that kind of a pitcher. I know that there are a bunch of injury concerns about the knee, the shoulder, the elbow, the everything, because he's a pitcher. He's had some injuries, he's had some surgeries, and that's just the nature of the game. But I think that he can eventually be that kind of a workhorse that goes out there every 5th day, that gives you 5, 6, 7 innings, like a top-of-the-rotation pitcher. And to get there, to take that step from, at worst, I think he's going to be a number 3 starter. At this point, with what he's put up there, I think worst case, if healthy, if he doesn't take those step backs, he's going to be a pretty good middle of the rotation pitcher, but he still has that upside of number 1 ace caliber guy. The question of that, how he gets there, is the trust in the other pitches. I mean, if you're just a 2-pitch pitcher, even if those pitches are really freaking good, which the rock ball is really freaking good, you have to have other pitches to get big league hitters out. You got to keep them on their toes. You got to have them not just sitting on that rock ball. To get those kind of ugly swings and misses, to get the kind of effectiveness that pitch can have when it's at its best, it has to be paired with other stuff. They have to respect that you can throw the other stuff 4 strikes, that you can land that pitch 4 strikes as well, and to just keep them guessing keep hitters guessing of, okay, what is he going to throw? I don't know for sure he's going to go with this kind of a pitch, because big league hitters, no matter how good a pitch is, if they know it's coming, there are very few pitches that big league hitters can't just sit on and either take for a ball or crush if they know it's coming. And getting some more trust in that changeup, actually throwing the cutter, just seeing what the heck it looks like. I've heard it's an effective pitch from guys who have seen it. He hasn't thrown it in games yet. He didn't throw it in Frisco. He didn't throw it in Round Rock. He didn't throw it in the big leagues. But apparently at times when he's thrown it, it's been effective in the bullpen, but just trusting it, working it into the game plan, which I think having a big league catcher, guys who are so good at game planning, Kyle Higashioka, Jonah Heim, both of them are very, very good at game planning with these starters, working with them, knowing what they like, what works for them, and what works against big league hitters. I think that those guys can help him feel more confident in that, to work that into the game plan and just trust it more, which will make the other stuff more effective. Just throwing that sinker more, I think, is going to be very, very important for his success. Trusting the 4-seamer just a little bit less, trusting the changeup, and just seeing what the heck the cutter looks like. I think it could be a good pitch. And, I think that will make everything just that much more effective. If he is going to start in the big leagues, we'll see. I think he might end up spending some time in the minors this year, not because he's not good enough to be a big leaguer, but just to kind of, take some of the wear and tear off this year. He's still building back up. I mean, it's been such a long time since he's had a really big workload. It's been since his final year at Vanderbilt that he's had 100+ innings in a season. I mean, he had that year that he basically took off to, fix the shoulder. Heading into the draft, when we actually got drafted by the Rangers, he didn't pitch all that much. He pitched a little bit in the Arizona Fall League. He had those 5-6 starts in independent league ball. Then the year after that, he had 5-6 starts in high A before he had Tommy John surgery and missed the whole rest of that year. Then comes back and had around not quite even 50 innings last year, where you look amazing, but again, still not that high of a workload. Just protecting this guy from the wear and tear, protecting him for the long term, while also trying to balance winning now. And Rocker gives you a good chance to win now. It's going to be a fascinating, battle between, okay, how do we balance all of that in one season with one guy? I have no idea what the answer actually is, but just seeing how effective he can be, if he starts, working that sinker in there more, if he starts trusting that changeup more, stretching that cutter more, and just being more effective against big league hitters, it's going to change that balance of, okay, well, we need this guy more because he is going to be more effective, going to be one of the better pitchers in this rotation, and heck, maybe one of the best rookies in the league. I'm excited to see all of that, but I think a lot of it will start with this pitch mix with Kumar Rocker. What it looks like, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm fascinated to see what he ends up going with in his pitch mix this spring. Coming up, we've got a couple more things to look at, including some new faces and a pitcher who's probably even more important than Kumar Rocker, but I'm not worried about his pitch mix. We'll talk about that and more right after this. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. We're back on Wednesday's show talking about pitchers and catchers finally reporting. We are just 2 days away from that holy day of all days that signifies, hey, we have survived through the off season. Almost there. But let's talk about the number 4 thing I'm excited to see in spring training this year. It's just new faces in Rangers jerseys, seeing especially the hitters with Jock Pederson, with Jake Berger, with Kyle Higashioka. I'm excited to see these guys in Rangers uniforms, what they look like in there, and I'm excited that they're here. I'm excited that the Rangers decided to supplement that offense. This was what I was asking them to do last year. I don't think it'll be as necessary to supplement this offense for guys who just had down seasons or have injury concerns or what have you, because the Rangers had that much longer of an offseason. They will have guys heading into spring training healthy. They're not going to have Corey Seager. Hopefully they're not going to have Corey Seager missing the vast majority of spring training just trying to get healthy. We're not going to have Corey Seager having surgery in January. We already know. We missed that. That's fine. That's good. He had his off-season surgery before the off-season truly started, so he can get ahead of that, so he can have, more of a normal routine off-season, head into spring training, and just hit the ground running like you would hope. Hopefully, Adolis Garcia is heading into this spring training fully healthy. We're thinking that we are getting fully healthy everybody else in this offense, and after the longer season, after that month-long trek, that just drudge through the playoffs, the postseason, how grueling it is, how much longer of a season it is than you're used to after 162 games, going through it, and not just having those additional 17 games or however many games it was, but it being that added pressure, that added spotlight, that added everything that just saps so much out of you. And it did sap a lot out of the Rangers after that 2023 season. I mean, we saw it with so many guys having down years, guys who had career years in 2023 bouncing, way back down in the worst way in 2024. And I thought, okay, you needed to add a little bit more to this offense just in case those guys take steps back, just in case Wyatt Langford isn't as amazing during the regular season as he was in spring training, which it turned out to be the case. Still very good regular season, still very good rookie. But to compete, they just needed a little bit more oomph, more firepower in this offense in case those guys fell back down to earth. And with the additions of, Jake Berger, with the addition of Jock Pederson, of Kyle Higashioka, I feel good about what this offense is, to where if guys do have Steph back, if, Evan Carter does have another unhealthy season, if Josh Jung does have another unhealthy season, that, maybe Josh Smith isn't able to step up in the way that he did this year. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that was a career year for Josh Smith, but I don't know how much you can bank on all of those guys being that best version of themselves. And with these additions, with Jake Berger, I'm excited to see if there is another level of Jake Berger in there, another level of offense for him to get to with a better hitting coaching staff than the Marlins or the Chicago White Sox provided. I feel like that's something that we could, maybe not expect, but it's not, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. If he's just what he's been, then that's a good hitter It's really good if he's your number 7 or 8 hole hitter, which I think he might end up being. Jock Pederson is a very, very welcome addition to this offense. Just having another bat in there that's just a certified bopper, you feel really darn good about being, one of the better offensive players in the league. And Jock Pederson has been that. He has been that consistent bat. And just adding that, it cost a lot to go get him, but I think that the Rangers really needed him. I mean, maybe Wyatt Langford takes that next step. I think he will. Maybe Corey Seager, still looks like, best version, one of the top 5 hitters in the world. I think that he will. Maybe Marcus Semien bounces back. I think he will. Maybe Jonah Heim and Adolis Garcia bounce back. I really think they will as well. But if they don't, these additions give you that little bit of cushion, that little bit of comfort that, okay, even if things, trend not exactly as we expect, even if unforeseen things break down and get worse, we've added that cushion, added a little bit of security that this offense is going to be really darn good and could be outright fantastic. I'm hoping it leans more towards outright fantastic, but that little bit of safety of the surefire things in this lineup being added in, with the home runs probably coming from Jake Berger, with the offensive production coming from Jock Pederson. I am just really excited to see these guys in this Rangers lineup, what it looks like, and just hopefully getting back to the mashing, home run bashing Texas Rangers offense that we have grown accustomed to seeing for the, 57, 8 years of this team being in Arlington. And the number 5 thing, the last thing that I am looking forward to, excited about, well, maybe excited isn't exactly the right word. More apprehensive, a little bit of excitement too. I'm looking forward to watching Jacob deGrom throwing baseballs in a Texas Rangers uniform. It is just always an absolute joy. The apprehension, the anxiety, the nervousness comes with basically every day of spring training having Jacob deGrom on your team. I mean, heading into that 2023 season, I felt so nervous in that spring training with every single Jacob deGrom update of, okay, oh, he's pitching. Oh, he's not pitching. Oh, he's pitching again. Oh, he feels some tweak in his elbow. Okay, he is healthy. He's ready to go. Oh, he's not fully ready, healthy to go, but he'll go for opening day and he'll be 75 pitches. It's just the everyday nature of, well, not just him, but every single pitcher, especially when every one of your pitchers is, has decent to significant injury concerns. Just going through every single day of spring training, hoping that there's no news. I was talking with my girlfriend about what to look for in spring training because she's more of a casual fan. She's like, is there anything that you actually find out in this week where pitchers and catchers report? And I'm like, well, hopefully not. Hopefully it's just, hey, we get to see guys at spring training, get to know that they're there, get to know that we are almost at that point. There's no games to watch. There's, grainy beat writer photos and video of guys throwing baseballs and just filling you with that hope. But hopefully there's no news. Hopefully it's just, okay, everybody's here, everybody's throwing, everyone's about where they're supposed to be, getting built up to just be healthy heading into the regular season. With just pitchers in general, this is always that time of year where I am on high alert and anxiety because, baseball's almost back, but this is just around the time of year when you find out, oh, this pitcher's going to have Tommy John surgery. It always happens. There's always one, and you just hope it's not, you hope it's nobody. You don't want anybody to have Tommy John surgery, but if someone is going to, you hope it's not, oh, Jacob deGrom felt something in his elbow. Oh, Nathan Eovaldi felt something tweak in his knee or what have you. It's just that anxiety time of, okay, please just everyone just be chill, be cool, just stay healthy, get healthy. Oh, spring training game happened and somebody gave up a bazillion runs. Okay, cool. Are they healthy? Did they throw the amount of pitches that they wanted to? Are they feeling good about the game plan of attack, whatever they were working on in that game? Spring training results do not matter. Just keeping these pitchers healthy is all that matters. And this time of year, I'm excited to see these guys in Rangers uniforms throwing baseballs, but I am very anxious about just everyone just be cool. Just everyone's elbow be chill. Every UCL just calm down. Just be cool, okay? Can everyone's UCL and shoulder and everything just be cool this year? maybe 1 year we will finally have that. But hey, especially Jacob deGrom's UCL and shoulder and everything about him, just please keep that man healthy, because I want to see at least one, if not, hopefully the next 3 seasons of a fully healthy Jacob deGrom in a Texas Rangers uniform, throwing baseballs impossibly hard, making hitters look impossibly stupid, because it is one of my supreme joys in life to watch this guy in a Texas Rangers uniform. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.